we give, the expectations. We want to make sure that people know what is expected as far as how we all agree to just kind of behave and interact with one another during the training. So this actually what we're taking you through is the template that you're going to get a copy of. We've had a great question in the chat about, is this recorded? Yes, we are recording this. It will be sent to you. We also are going to give you a link to a resource page after this that you will be able to see a recording. You'll have the template that we're working from today. You'll have all types of handouts you can give your staff. And so definitely be on the lookout for that link that you will get at the end in the chat box, but it also will be emailed to you if you registered for the training. So here's just the expectations we have for the training. It's the same expectations you can have for your team as well, or you can edit this. But basically it's be respectful, be responsible, and be safe, with particular things that you can do in those areas to make sure that the training goes smoothly and goes the way you need it to be successful. The other thing we really want to encourage you to do is to make sure that you do use the chat box for any questions, concerns, or wonderings that you have throughout today's training. You don't have to wait to the very end to ask a question. You can ask it right there in the chat box. Also today, because we have such an intimate group, feel free to put your camera on. Feel free to even ask a question out loud. If you want to raise your hand, we will definitely call on you if that's the way you'd like to ask your question. But we really want to encourage you to use the chat box. It's a very easy way for you to get that question or wondering or concern to us in a quick and efficient way. So we can make sure that, any questions you might have or anything you want to share, we're able to address those things today. So please, 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 whether you call it the parking lot, the discussion board, whatever chat box, whatever you want to call it, please feel free to use it, and we'll definitely get to your questions and comments as soon as possible. So here's just a quick overview of what we're going to do today during the training. And this could be the same overview that you use when you present this template or parts of the template to your staff. You want, of course, we're going to start with that welcome and then with the expectations. And then in the template, these are the areas that we cover. And we're going to go over all these areas today. So PBIS Foundations, why use PBIS Rewards. Then we're going to break it down into how do you log in? What are the ways you can use the system to reward? What are the ways you can use the system to redeem? What are some ideas for virtual learning? And then also, how can we get support and resources to your staff? And then we'll finally end it with kind of next steps. What are some other professional development pieces that could be offered to you and your staff moving forward? And then also a personal invitation to our Facebook user group, as well as a survey to just kind of let us know how you think today's training went. So like we said, this is already one of the slides that's included in your template, but you can adjust this to how you need for your staff when you decide to do your presentation. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty with the presentation, we want to talk to you about just kind of some tips and tricks that work for us that may also work for you when you give your presentation to your staff. One of the first things to think about is make sure that you make your focus be about what your school needs. What the school down the street needs may not be what you and your staff need. So make sure that you tailor this presentation to whatever needs your school currently has, or even maybe some of the needs you see that are coming. But just make sure that whatever you do is about you, it's about your staff, and about your school. The other thing is, don't feel like you're in this alone. You could probably find at least one other person who would be willing to help you in this PBIS journey, and use that as a tag team effort when you give this presentation. Whether it's one person, whether you split up the presentation amongst your entire PBIS team, but make sure that you go into it with a team effort and a team mentality when you give the presentation. Break up some of the slides, have someone show the parts in the system, have someone else do slides 25 through 35, whatever. Just make sure that you don't feel like you're alone, and try to do it with a friend. Even if you're the one doing all the presentation, it's very helpful sometimes if someone else can just be behind the scenes helping troubleshoot with technology issues or other types of needs that might be going on within the training. So please don't do it by yourself. Another thing you may have noticed when you came into today's training that we kind of set the tone with music. And in fact, we're going to kind of give you all a little something we usually say for people that come to our expedition. We're going to give you a link to our Spotify playlist. It has the songs, including the one you heard when you came in today's training. I mean, what do you think, Anna? Is it probably like at least 100+ songs on that playlist? What do you think?
Probably at least. It's got lots
At
and lots.
least. So you can definitely find a song or two that you could play on that playlist, or just play anything you think would kind of set the tone. So when people come in, they're like, hey, I thought this was a training. And you're like, yeah, this is a training. But it just gets them excited to be there. You could also just maybe play a sample of a song of maybe one of your students or classes performances, or maybe even show a video clip, whatever you can to just kind of set the tone with music to let people know, yes, this is serious, we're learning, but it's also just a fun time to be together. And the other thing is, everybody loves a freebie. So definitely have some resources and handouts ready that you can give them so that they can keep the training in their mind even after they leave the training. So definitely don't worry about, oh my gosh, am I going to have to create all these things to go with this template they're giving us? No, ma'am, no, sir. We already have resources and handouts for you that will be included in the resource link we're going to give you at the end of the training. It also will be emailed to you if you registered today, that will give you all types of resources and handouts that go directly with this PowerPoint template. The other thing is, just like we had a question in the chat today, are we recording today's session for you? Absolutely. And you probably want to do the same when you do your presentation, just in case someone can't come, just in case someone has to come but leave. That way you can send it out later in an email blast, or just give it to someone, or send it to someone personally who wasn't able to attend. But please make sure that you remember to record your session. Another tip and trick that really works for us is making sure that you do everything that you can to increase the participation of the people in your training. So you will see, like throughout this template, there's times when we're going to suggest to you, this is where you go live into the system. This is where you let them, have their device with them, and then give them a challenge. Ask them to go log in. Ask them to, reward a student with a point. So whatever you can do to increase that presentation and that participation, you can ask them questions to put answers in the chat. You can do different things, whatever is going to work for your staff. Do whatever you can to increase the participation. The other thing is definitely keep the conversation going. So, after the training, a lot of times we go to great training. Oh, that was so great. And then nothing happens afterwards. So definitely keep the conversation going. Whether you, send out an email afterwards, whether you send out a challenge to the people afterwards that keeps them looping back to the training that you had. Maybe you have training phase 1, training phase 2, training phase 3 over an amount of time. Whatever you can do to keep the conversation going after your training is going to definitely lead to PBIS and PBIS Rewards success. And our last tip that we know will really make your presentation pop is making sure that you give your participants ways that they can help themselves. You definitely want to lead them. You definitely want to teach them through your training and facilitate learning. But you also want to leave them with ways that afterwards they can help themselves. And so we're definitely going to talk about the importance of giving them a link to the support page for PBIS Rewards so that they can really help themselves after your presentation.
Okay, so
now this is it, Anna. You ready? Are we ready to get into the template?
Yes. All right. So this is going to be our professional development template that we are going to give you a link to, and it's in Google Slides so that you can easily download it, make any changes, and really, like we said, tailor it to the exact needs of your campus. As Indy and I go through this today, we're not going to go really deep. We're just going to kind of skate across the water with a lot of these things, but we do want to really emphasize this is something that you should chunk for your staff. We wouldn't suggest doing this whole PowerPoint with your staff in one sitting. It's too much information. It's too detailed. So, we think that when we have had campuses that have done that, it's really been overwhelming to staff members to try to remember all the different features and functions of PBIS Rewards. So we try to make it really fantastic for everybody, and sometimes that can be a little much for some staff members. So just take it slow. And so we'll try to give you some kind of stopping points today to say, okay, this is what we would do at the beginning. This would be step one. So you kind of know what our suggestion would be as far as that goes. But when you get started with this, you'll also notice in the notes section when you download this, we have provided lots of notes for you and links for you to be able to utilize with your staff as well. So please don't forget about that. So of course, just like we started off with, you want to start your session by introducing yourself and giving those that you are presenting a little bit of background information, especially if you're presenting it at the district level. So this is a great slide to tailor to you specifically, adding your picture or your Bitmoji, really showing a little bit of fun and personality or a fun fact about you. If you're a Twitter user, this is a great way to put your Twitter handle on there, your contact information for people to be able to make that connection with you. So a great place to start. And like India said, starting with those expectations, you can modify this as well. This is a great way to make sure that you have that consistency as you start with the template. And the agenda, we simplified a little bit here, just trying to think about what topics are going to be relevant and then what parts you want to go ahead and present at what times during the year. But make sure to review that so that we know your people that you're training know those basic categories, and then you can always add in additional information that are needed for your school. We always start with this section of PBIS Foundations. Even if it's a campus that is maybe over 5 years into PBIS, we always just start with this because you always are going to have some new people on campus, or things are going to change. You may have a long-term sub, or somebody may have just forgotten some of those real basic things when you kind of get into the groove after a while. So we start with those PBIS Foundations. There's also going to be a link in those notes. And so just basic information, what does it actually stand for? And we have some staff members even write almost an elevator speech. So when they have to explain what is PBIS, whether they're going to explain that to another staff member, a new teacher, or especially when they're going to explain it to parents, what does it mean? So in 2 minutes, how could you explain PBIS? So these are some really great bullet points to be able to formulate that kind of speech to have at the tip of your tongue when you're explaining it to someone. And then we like to really go into the impact of PBIS. So how does it impact our staff? How does it impact our students? And then our overall impact at our school. And of course, we always want to drive that point home that we really want to see our students increase their exposure to that classroom instruction, because we know that is absolutely the best place for students to be with their teacher in their classroom. And with PBIS and using it with fidelity, that's really the advantages that you have, is having that increased exposure. So that's another great point to discuss at the beginning. On the flip side of that, we also like to talk about just the time cost of office referrals. So in this one, what we took is just for an average campus, if they had 5 office referrals a day, and sometimes we just refer to those as ODRs, office discipline referrals. Now, of course, this is another great place to personalize it for your staff, your school's data. Find out about how many office referrals you have per day, and you can change this slide very easily. But if you take about the average, which is about 5 per day, and you say we go to school 180 days. So then if we multiply that, that's about 900 office discipline referrals a year. So then what we did is we said, how long would it take for a teacher, a student, and an administrator to process those office referrals. Now, this is really on the short side. We just said 15 minutes. So we know whether you're a teacher or an administrator, it never takes 15 minutes, but just on the short side, and for the student to be out of class 15 minutes there, it's always more than that. But just 15 minutes for each. And if we combine that to say, okay, for 45 minutes total, that's the time we're spending for 900 referrals, you can see what that equates to over a school year is 96 school days. So well over half of our days would be spent handling office referrals. So again, PBIS really gives us that time back with students in class. And so getting back that instructional time. And what we hear very often from teachers and administrators alike is that I don't have time. I need more time. So this is a way to get that time back. So it really makes it a reality. And using your own data really drives that point home as well. So a great slide to be able to personalize, or you can use this existing information as it is. And then we like to make the connection between PBIS and PBIS Rewards. So why will we be utilizing this? And it offers so many features and functions. And so what we like to do, sometimes we try to think about for our staff members, what is their kind of love language? What speaks to them? There are lots of different things on here that are advantages to using PBIS Rewards. So you really need to think about which are going to be the most advantageous for your staff. Is it because it's going to be school-wide? It'll be consistent whether you're pre-K through 8th grade, if you're a school like that, or is your school a real data-driven school? You can look at that data, you can look at those reports, or we just talked about increasing that instructional time. So in the notes of this slide, we gave you a little sentence for each one of these statements to give you a speaking point for each of these to expand on. So these are a really great way to talk about how do we connect those to PBIS and PBIS Rewards. So India is going to talk us through next. The most important part is logging in, because if you can't log in, you're really at a standstill. So let's start at the beginning.
Absolutely. And you know, sometimes, especially if you're the person who is in charge of the system, you have admin privileges. Sometimes we forget those basic things that your average teacher at school needs to first know how to do. So you definitely want to make sure that when you go into teaching about PBIS rewards and how to use the system, that everybody knows how to log in. So this next slide, though, that we have is really a slide just for you, okay? You want to make sure that before you talk about logging in, that if you are someone with the admin privileges for the system, that you are going to make sure that everybody does have their login information before you talk about logging in. So this slide is one you may want to hide when you're doing your actual presentation, but this just shows you how to send them that email to let them know how to get logged in for the very first time to the web portal. So what you would do is you would log into the PBIS Rewards web portal. You would then navigate from the main menu to settings, and then in settings, you would click on send staff login. If all the staff needs that login information for the first time, you click on all staff and you click on send email. PBIS Rewards takes care of giving them all the steps that they need to get into the system. So before you talk about logging in, just make sure that you do that, okay? And before you do your presentation, you might want to hide this slide because it's really just for you. So once that's been taken care of, that's when you can, in your presentation, go over, review, or introduce for the first time how to get logged in. You're going to tell them that simply to get into the web portal, they're going to use their email from school. They're going to then put in the password they set up and simply click sign in. The other thing they may want to do before they click sign in is click on that remember me button, because that remember me button is going to keep them from having to log in over and over and over again. Also, if you are a ClassLink or Clever school, they could use ClassLink or Clever to automatically log in as well. Once they do, it's going to bring them to the home page of the web portal, which is also the reward page. It looks just like this, okay? And so you would just, basically go over this slide with them to make sure they know how to log into the web portal. And what you could do is if they haven't done it yet and they do have their login information, you can feel free to help people right then and there get logged in. This is where that team effort comes into play. You could have other people with you from your PBIS leadership team or other admin who can come in and kind of walk around and help people get logged in during this time if you wanted to break and actually have them participate and do it. Okay, there's a good question here too in the chat about if most of our staff goes through Clever, but a few have to log in manually, how do they do that? The email will explain to them exactly how they do it. There's a few steps you have to do the first time that you get in, but basically they're going to go through what we just talked about. They're going to enter their email, enter a password that they set up, and that's the way they'll have to get in that first time. Okay, but folks with Clever, just click on that Clever button. So the other thing is too, once they have logged in for the first time to the web portal, is our suggestion that you show them through the training how to also get logged into the app, okay? There is a staff web portal and a staff app, and what you've got to do while you're in the web portal, they're going to need to create an authorization code to get into the app. So the way that they do that is while they're in the web portal, they're going to go on the main menu and click on Login Auth Code. Once they click on that, they're going to click on Staff Auth Code. And then after they've done that, they're going to click the plus sign because they're adding a new code. Then it's going to give them an option of authorizing themselves or authorizing another staff member if they are, they have those privileges. And then they're going to click on Generate Code. And once they click on Generate Code, it's going to give them a series of letters and numbers that they will use to authorize themselves to get onto the app, okay? So they want to write that down, keep it there. After they've done that, they're going to make sure that they've downloaded the app onto whatever device they're going to use it on. After that, they're going to open the app. Once they do, it brings them to this first login page where they can click on I have an authorization code. They'll click on that button and then the boxes will open up for them to type in that code that they wrote down. Once they click that in, they're going to click submit and they're in there. It's going to take them right to the home page with all the different features they can do in the app. This is really great for you to talk about how to log into both the web portal and the app, because that will just give them a lot more flexibility to be able to use the system and move forward with using the system for PBIS initiatives. So now we're also going to talk about then rewarding. And like Anna said, you may do everything we've talked about so far at the same time. You may even split it up into smaller trainings. But we would suggest that if you do talk about logging in, at least go through the part about rewarding. So we're going to go over that briefly. So when you reward from the web portal, it's very simple. It's about 5 steps, okay? So you want to go over this with them. The first thing is they have to make sure that once they're logged in, they're on that home page or that reward page. If not, they'll just need to click on reward over on the main menu. After they do that, they're going to type in the student's name of who they want to give the points to. That's step 2. Step 3, they're then going to, of course, they're going to choose the student because it'll start populating the student they're looking for. They're like, oh, that's the right one. Then they're going to have to choose what points they want to give the student, okay? Some schools, you might have it set up to where you can just give 1 per expectation. Some may have it set up differently than that, but they need to choose the points they want to give the student. After that, schools may have turned on the option to put a comment of why the student earned the point, okay? Schools could also decide to turn that off. That's up to the school, and that can be done in the settings section. But if comments are available, they can choose to add a comment as a 4th step, and then finally as a 5th step, they click on the reward button. So it's very simple to talk your staff through all the steps to be able to give points to the students through the web portal. Then you can also show them how they could do that on the app. Very simple and similar steps. They're going to log in, get to that main menu, click on recognize the student. But what we personally love about the app It gives you a lot of ways to choose the student that you're going to be acknowledging with points. So you first need to make sure you choose what pointer points you want to give them. You can then choose to include a comment or not. And then you have three different ways that you can choose the student. You can type in their name in that search bar, just like you do with the web portal, or you could click the scan to reward button and scan a badge for the student. Or, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about groups, we could actually print off a PDF from a group page, which is kind of like your class page. And it has like a QR code in the corner for the whole group. It has a QR code for each of the students. You can actually use that scan to reward button and scan any of those QR codes from the PDF that you can print off from the web portal. So this is really great, especially if you are trying to, teach a virtual class over here, but you also want to acknowledge the students for their wonderful and positive behavior. The app really makes that a lot easier to do.
All right, so our next thing that we're going to talk about is the groups page. This is probably our favorite page in PBIS Rewards because it has so much functionality and it has so many things you can do right here. For most teachers, we talk about this will be their home base during the day. They will have this page up so that they can access their students that are in those specific groups. If they have students that are assigned to them through ClassLink or Clever, or they are, let's say, a homeroom teacher, and those students are students in their class, they will have those students visible to them. And they can also create groups if they'd like to do that. If they're going to maybe have an after school group, they can create a group like that as well. But most teachers are going to have those groups that are already going to be synced with them as well. That will be visible. So it just saves so much time. So here on the groups screen, you can see this is the second tab down here on the left-hand side. And when we talk about the groups tab that's here, first we always talk about this number that's in the top left corner. Now this can be turned on or turned off. This is the total amount of points that a student has. And sometimes we refer to that as their points backpack. So this backpack of points that they have with them, it goes with them to every class. And I can add points to the backpack, and the teachers need points for meeting those expectations, or I can spend points out of that backpack in my different teachers' classrooms in their teacher store or in the school store, or events or raffles. So those points go with me everywhere I go. So this can also be turned off. Sometimes this is competitive for students and it causes problems. So it is something, like we said, you can, in the settings, you can turn it on or off. So just kind of hitting the highlights here of some of our favorite things. Like we said, that points backpack number is right there, their total points. Our other favorite is this random button. If you select all of your students, and let's say you just want one person to run an errand for you, they're going to drop something off in the office. You can use that random button and it will select a student from all of your students. It is really great because it replaces that can of sticks that used to sit on your desk and you would pick a stick out of that can. You don't have to do that anymore. This is a great replacement for that. And it's another great way too, if you pick that first student and you click close, you can click that random button again and it will select another student. And then you could say, student, the first one and the second one, you're going to be pairs today. And it gives you a great option to be able to pick groups of students. So a little great time saver there. Our next favorite is the toggle presence. We know that we have lots of kids that come in and out of our classroom. They go to appointments, they come back. So when we are working in a classroom, we can select a student's name. If I wanted to select this student, Blake, I could click on his name and click toggle presence, and then it kind of grays out that student's card. So when I give points to everyone in class, that student will not receive those points. So that will continue that whole day for my class. And then if the student comes back to my class during that same class period, I can click on them and click toggle presence, and then they'll be present again in class, but it just lasts for that one day in my class. When that student is in India's class, she'll have to click on toggle presence for that student. It's just a little option that's there. Our next one here is the redeem menu. So this gives teachers the option to be able to redeem points in the school store, school events, and school raffles, and then your own personal teacher store, teacher events, and teacher raffles. So it's very easy to access all of that here on the groups page. So we'll talk about redeeming in a little bit, but this groups page really has so many things that you can do right here. And we know we have so many schools right now that are working with their students virtually. So we want to highlight just a little bit of how you can utilize this groups page really efficiently in a virtual setting. So what you will ask your staff to do is to click on that cog over there on the very far right side. And once you click on that, select that option that says group print. So once you do that, it's going to bring up an option to see how many you want on a page. Personally, I want to see all of mine on the front of a page. And then I can print out a PDF that looks like this. Each student is going to have an assigned QR code, and this is what India was referencing earlier. And with this QR code, I can then easily have this printed out, and I can set this on my desk right next to me as I'm teaching virtually, and I can utilize my phone to scan those QR codes as I'm teaching. So I don't have to have another screen item up on my computer screen. I can just have this paper PDF copy right there on my desk, and I can easily scan it with my phone. If I want to give points to everybody in my class, I can scan this QR code at the top left that says math, and it gives a point to everybody. So that's a really great option to be able to utilize working in the virtual environment with our students, because we know you have so many things going on your computer screen when you're teaching that way. So a really great option. And then when you are utilizing groups in the app, it works very similar. So you're going to scroll down to groups and select that. And then those groups, like we said, that are synced with you, they're going to appear on the app. If there is a group that you are using that you have from another teacher, or a group that you have, if you've created a group, it will appear here. But let's say if I'm going to cover India's math class for her, I can make that a favorite. And there's a little orange star that I can click on in the corner of that group. And when I make that a favorite, it will appear then on my groups page on my phone. If we pulled every group from a school, that's too much data. Your phone wouldn't be able to handle all that. So with the groups page, it works in the exact same way. You can reward a single student if you want to reward points that way, or you can reward all your students at the same time. So lots of really great options. You can just do the same thing. You can include a comment. The random button is also available in the groups. So lots of those great things are available here in the app on the groups tab. So at this point in your training, we would suggest going into the groups page and going through those different things, clicking through that to train your staff so that they really see what that looks like. So this is kind of where we're going to make a little pit stop here. And India is going to kind of walk us through this and talk about some of our first steps as far as the training goes.
Absolutely. And some of you may be saying, you know, I want to kind of see some of the things in the system today too. What we're doing is we've kind of found out even from our trainings that we do, some things are so nice, you got to say them twice. That's why we give you so many slides that kind of shows you image wise how to do the different steps. And then we have a slide in there that says, okay, now let's get live into the system. For today's training, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through all the slides. And then at the very end, we're going to ask you to tell us, what do you want to see live in the system? So if you want us to go into the groups and show you things there, we can. If you want us to show you some other features, we definitely will at the end of today's training. But definitely, if you're going to do these trainings, you do want to kind of balance, if possible, between talking through the slides and then also showing some things live, or encouraging your staff to actually do the things live after you show them in the presentation. So like we said, this is a long template, y'all. And in fact, it's a lot to take in one sitting, and it can be overwhelming. So what we suggest is kind of breaking it down into some steps, some first steps. The first thing you'll probably want to do is do the part with the logging in and with the rewarding students. And then after you do that training, encourage your staff to reward some students using the web portal. Just say, okay, after today's training, please use the web portal. That's simple, you know? Then what you may want to do is give them another challenge a little later. Maybe you want to ask them to, download the staff app and use that to reward some students with the group page print, like to print that PDF that Anna showed you, and they can give some points that way. And then maybe challenge them to use the random button in groups, okay? So you kind of want to break it down, kind of keep what you taught in their mind by giving them kind of different steps and challenges after the training. And then the third step you probably want to do is to get them redeeming. So first, just get them logged in. Then get them to rewarding the points, first through the web portal, and then if you feel it's appropriate, through the app. And definitely, Anna and I always say, if you want to stay in the loop, stay in the groups. If you don't teach your staff anything else about PBIS Rewards, just teach them to use the group. Click on the group that's your classroom for that time and use all those features. And honestly, they'll have everything they need right there at their fingertips. But once you've done that, you then want to encourage them to utilize redeeming within the system. And we're getting ready to go into that with the template. But when you get to that redeem step, challenge them to maybe just set up a My Store and sell 5 items from their store. Or maybe encourage them to complete one event or complete one raffle. And so now we're going to go into the redeem section so you can see exactly how they can do that in the system. And then you'll be able to show them how to do it too. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about redeeming. Just to break it down for you, basically the system has 3 huge sections. The first is rewarding, the second is redeeming, the third is reporting. And actually today we're not going to get into the reporting piece. That's really more of a lot of that is more admin. It's more your people with your admin and reports privileges. But today let's go ahead and go over the redeeming aspect of the training that you can do. Okay, so probably the most widely used feature in the system is the store as far as redeeming points is concerned. Now, the thing is, you all probably want to decide as admin or PBIS leadership, how do you want your school to set up the store? These are some questions that you all can talk about. It's also questions that you can lead the teachers through regarding the My Store, because within the system, there's 2 types of store. You can set up a school store, okay, where students can use their points to redeem items from the school store. They could be tangible, they could also be privileges, but there's the school store option. And each teacher or staff member in the system also has an opportunity to set up their own store. That's called My Store, okay? So when you're going over store with your staff, you may want to definitely talk about those 2 different stores, and then also maybe focus more so on My Store or more so on school store. Whatever you all feel is the best way that you all want your students to redeem points, you definitely want to focus on that. Now, the other thing about stores, My Store is just for that particular staff member unless they decide to make it public. Okay. Other than that, the school store is the one store that every student has access to, but My Store, only that teacher is in charge of the My Store, and only the students associated with that teacher would be able to buy things from that store unless the teacher made that store public. And Anna's going to tell us a little bit about events.
Absolutely. Events are really popular. And in this section, we're going to talk about how to utilize the 3 different types of events. And so we're going to walk you through those today. There is a redeem event, And that is an event, let's say if you had a movie party, a movie event, that it would cost 20 points to attend it. So it would pull 20 points out of their point backpack. It costs them points to go. The next one is called a qualifying event. And with a qualifying event, it's going to be based on the points that they have earned. So if you're going to do something like maybe a respect event, so that you might be playing bingo. So those students that have 20 respect points are going to qualify to attend the event. And the great thing is that the system can automatically enter students in the event for you that have that point amount that you're setting. And it can be set from a specific expectation for this grading period or the year. There's lots of different ways that you can set that up and customize it, but students qualify for it. So it doesn't cost them anything out of their backpack. And then the last one is called an award event. And this is actually going to add points to their backpack if they attend an event. So sometimes if there are things that you really want to incentivize your students to attend, maybe an open house, especially if it's virtual. If their parent attends a virtual open house, you can tell them you're going to earn 20 points going into your point total by attending that event. And so that's an award event it's adding to. So great differences in ways that you can utilize those events. And again, they can be used as a school event, or they can be used as a single teacher event. So it's up to you. Our favorite probably is the raffles, because everybody enjoys raffles. They are so much fun. And with raffles, it's such a great way to use some of those things that we get donated to school that's just one item, or as a teacher, you can't buy items for every student. But you may see something at the Dollar Tree that you really like for your student, but you only want to buy one or two. So really great ways to utilize raffles. Plus, it is so fun to be able to run a raffle right from the PBIS Rewards platform. It's really interactive. It's got confetti and a drum roll when you announce your winner there. So the two types of raffles that we have are the same, very similar to the events. The redeem raffles, those are going to cost points to enter. That's kind of like your old school raffle. The kind, remember, where you would turn in so many points to enter it. It cost a point to enter it into that raffle. Remember, we used to use those circus tickets and we used to write the kid's name on it and don't lose this one and here's this one for the jar and all that kind of stuff. This is a great way to be able to take care of that. So it costs points out of their backpack to enter. And then the second way is a qualifying raffle. So if they have earned a specific amount of points, or they've met that point goal that you've set, it's going to enter the student into that raffle. So again, does not cost them a thing. So much fun being able to utilize those raffles in different kinds of ways. So again, this is where we would take our teachers into the system, and in the notes section of this slide, we wrote a couple of examples for you. So in the store, we would go into the store, add an item to the store, and show teachers how to do that. With the events, we would show teachers how to create an event. With the raffle, we would do the same thing, create a raffle and run a raffle. So those examples are in the notes section for you to be able to kind of use that as you're presenting. All right, Indy, are you going to take us next?
Absolutely. And we just want to say thank you so much, Ms. Kravitz. Thank you so much for being here today. No worries. You will get the recording to this, okay? And lots of resources. So no worries. Thank you for being with us today, okay? Bye. And if there's anyone else that also has something come up, do not feel, bad about having to go take care of your business. We will definitely make sure that you get a recording and get all the resources that you need. Okay. The other thing that we wanted to say too, you may have noticed that as Anna was talking, I was putting in the chat a lot of different links from our support page. I was putting video links, I was putting articles, and some of you might have been saying, oh my goodness, am I supposed to be clicking on this stuff and save it? Guess what? No, all of these things are coming directly from the presenter notes in the template. So let's say instead of talking about it, you just want to show a video that shows them how to create and run a raffle. You can show the video. The link is right there in the presenter notes. So don't worry if you haven't been able to get all these or you're like, oh my gosh, you are overwhelming, India. Slow your roll. No worries. It's all in the presenter notes. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some other helpful resources that you might want to go over. Anna and I also cannot reiterate how important it is for you to make sure that you just present to your staff what they need. Okay. So even though this system has so many wonderful features, sometimes the great things about it can be kind of overwhelming all at one time. So like we said, spread out your training maybe over several staff meetings, maybe, through PLCs, maybe you can get them in the PLCs during certain times, or you just focus on one feature. So after you've kind of looked at the, rewarding and the redeeming, these are some other features that your teachers and other staff members will probably find amazing. And one of Anna and my personal favorites is our cell check, okay? So the cell check is very easy to use. It's great to be able to check in virtually or in person with your students just to see how are they feeling. And the great thing is you can do these social emotional learning checks either on the web portal or the app as the staff member, the teacher. Also, your school can set up customizable settings in the settings button for your cell check, what it says, how it looks, all those different things. And there's also reports and data that's being generated every time the cell check feature is being used, okay?
So I'm going to hit a couple of little highlights from that. This is on that very first page. Here with the student, you can see it has brought up her last SEL check was done yesterday, was anger. And so any teacher that either types her name into a reward or scans her badge to get that information using your cell phone will be able to see that information. We do want to let you know that parents do not see these social emotional checks that have been done by teachers because sometimes that just may cause some difficulties because of some of those events that may have happened at home may come to school, and that's the reason that students are upset. So right now, this is just only going to be visible on the staff side. So once you're in that groups page, again, this is another function of it. You'll see that same icon, that heart with the check in it. And that is where a teacher can do an SEL check on a student. So they're going to select a student, and then it will bring up the options for the social emotional check. Now, right now, it just has 3 options. You can see anger, stressed, and calm. However, these can be personalized and changed to whatever you would like. If you just want to use specific colors, you can to match your SEL curriculum. If you don't want to use emojis, you don't have to, but it is an option that's there. And then of course you can change all that wording to fit exactly the curriculum that you are using. So a comment can be added here, and then you can see where this hand is pointing to SEL guide. This is going to be able to provide the consistent information across your campus so that if somebody checks a student in on stress, we're all on the same page as far as what does stress look like and what does it sound like with our student and what are those visible emotions. So it really provides that consistency piece. So this is what Indy was talking about, those customizable settings. You can go in and change this. You can see, you can even change if the risk level is high, medium, low, or no risk at all. The wording for that SEL guide for the visible emotions, and then the look and listen fors. So again, helping maintain that consistency across your campus. And all of this can be changed. And this can be a setting that can be turned on or off. You can see right now it's set to active, but this is something that does not have to be turned on if your school isn't ready for that right now. And then this is an example of the data part of it, the reports. So for each individual student, you can really drill down and see specific information about them. The system is collecting that all the time. And it is going to be able to tell us the number of times that they have checked in at each of those levels. And so then as you're planning those intervention reports and what your strategies are for that student, you can really utilize that to see, okay, we've really had so many days on our highest level of risk. What do we really need to do to help the student be successful? So that's always available for you here. So Indy is going to talk to us a little bit about the parent access and how that works. Parents only have an app. They do not have a web portal. So we're going to talk to you through that just a little bit. This is a good place to share that with your staff.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people have said, well, our school is new to PBIS Rewards, but we use other types of digital management systems, such as Class Dojo or other types of systems. And the great thing is, a lot of people say that they love about, kind of all digital management systems is not just being able to, award the points that have been earned, but they also like being able to be in the loop and stay connected with families. And so a messaging feature is something that we're very proud to be able to offer you all through PBIS Rewards. So you can stay in the loop with your parents. Now, the way that it works, for the staff, we have a web portal and we have an app. For the students, we have a web portal and an app. But for the parents, we have an app only, okay? And so the way that they get access to that app, teachers or admin, whoever you decide is going to be the person to give this to them, will need to email or hand to them a letter that's generated through the web portal for staff. On that letter is a QR code. All the parent has to do is download the app onto their device for parents, and then they just scan that QR code. That gets them into the app. And the wonderful thing about them being in the app, they can see so much going on regarding their student or students with the PBIS Rewards system. They can see how many points the student currently has, how many they've earned. If your school uses the ARS, the advanced referral system, they can also see any referrals that the student has been given, major or minor ones. They can see what purchases the students have made, and they can also see upcoming events, registered events, as well as a list of teachers that they can contact. And they also can use that app to message back and forth with the staff members. Now, this can be turned on or turned off in the settings, okay? So just know that whoever has your admin privileges, if they say we're not ready for that yet, we're not ready to message, give parents that messaging back and forth or the use of the app, you just turn that off in the system. But whenever you're ready, you can turn that on and then start getting those QR codes out to them and then have that messaging going on back and forth from the app. But you can also do messaging from the staff web portal, okay? Oh, you're so welcome, Kimberly. Thank you. And Kimberly had a question about the cell check settings. Does the admin have to be the ones to do the customization? Yes, that is given to your admin, those with admin privileges, who will make those customizable settings for you for your cell checks. But like we said, you can also do messaging from the app itself, as well as from the web portal. So we just want to have in here some slides that you can use to show your staff what that looks like. There also is a question here, do parents have to have a QR code or does it also generate a link? They have to utilize that QR code and scan it at this time. But actually, we will take what you've suggested back to our development team and see if that's something they have in the works or maybe a new idea for them to think about. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. All right, so we wanted to kind of also have in here a slide that you can show your staff so they can see what does the messaging look like on the parent side. So on the parent app, that's just kind of a quick little glimpse of what it looks like. It kind of looks like texting back and forth. It's clean, it's crisp. It also gives you an option to, if you want to upload a picture, picture the kid drew, or upload a picture of maybe the homework assignment or something. It also gives you an option to put attachments as well, which is really cool. Thank you so much, Sarah. We're definitely, Sarah, we're taking that definitely back to our team.
So we wanted to just give you a little more information on rewarding your students virtually. So when you are utilizing PBIS Rewards, we have so many schools that are only virtual right now. So how do you reward those points? How could you give out those points in a virtual setting? Because it is different than when you are in person and person to person or face to face. So these are some of the different ways, and we have highlighted some of the ways that we really think are fantastic for us. But, and that's something you can do too. Think about what is going to really work best for your school and highlight some of those for you. We always talk about when students are independently learning, how that's a great way to reward points, and also when they are working cooperatively with others, when they're online, or even when they're participating in those spirit days, because part of school is having those fun days, and even virtually that's something that we really try to encourage as well. And then taking that to the next step is, how do you redeem those points virtually? And so we have a huge list of student incentives when you are working in distance learning. And there is a link again in the notes section of this that we are going to provide for you. And this is a great way to provide those incentives when you are working in a distance learning setting. And they can be sorted, and then you can also look at them by grade level and also the cost. Because we know some schools you're going to have a budget that's going to be available for this, and some schools you're not going to have a budget. So we have lots of free items and free ideas on this list as well. And we're adding to it all the time because we come across great people that share wonderful ideas with us, and we just continue to add to the list. So a great way to provide those resources to your teachers. And this is a great addition we have added recently, is this Show Me How. And it's down here at the bottom of each page. And if you can't remember how to run a raffle or how to give points to all of your students at one time in the groups page, all you have to do is click on this Show Me How, and it will walk you through the exact steps of what to click on. And so it is a series of clicks, and it'll say click here, and you can click there, and it'll go through that with you, and you can search those different they're called walk me's through the system, and it's a really great resource right there on every page for that additional support and help. And if that's not enough, the help button at the very top, that is going to be linked to our support page. And you can talk to our wonderful people in support, whether that is over the phone, you want to do an online chat with them, or you want to send an email. Either any of those ways, we'll get in contact with them, and then we'll get right back to you and help you resolve that issue. And then this is one of our other things that we really like to call everybody's attention to, this kind of news and notes. These are our latest updates, are going to appear over here on the right, and Indy and I are just as guilty sometimes of not noticing those things over there, but these are really the latest things going on with PBIS Rewards, and it has links to videos and different support guides and topics for staff members. So this is a really great thing right there on that very first page. So always, like we said, make sure that your staff knows how to provide that self-help. So giving them those links to the support page. If they're a video type person, they'd like someone to show them on a video screen how to do that. There's lots of videos there. If they click on that next one that says Learn, that takes them to this, we call it our Explorer series, and you can see it kind of has a planet for each of the topics. So if you wanted to learn more about how to run events, there's a planet just for events, and it'll walk you through those events. As someone that's on maybe the administrative side, If you want to learn more about workplace rewards for teachers, this is kind of the PBIS rewards for teachers. There's a planet just for that. So lots of information, and it'll take you just directly to that. And again, on this slide, this has information on how to contact our support. There's our friend Jill. She will be happy to chat with you online or talk to you over the phone. And our support is always there to help. And we have lots of training opportunities coming up. We have our 3-day expedition. Now, this is a virtual training that we're going to have in February. And this gives you a much deeper dive into PBIS and PBIS rewards, really going into all the different functions and features. And there is kind of a blend of learning that happens with this. Indy and I lead this training, and we have short Zoom sessions in the morning and the afternoon of those 3 days. And then the remainder of the time are video modules that walk you through all those different parts of PBIS and PBIS rewards. So this is a really great training. It's $95, but because you guys are here today, we have a coupon code that will also get you $25 off. And I'm going to put that coupon code over here in the chat. It's PBIS Heart, and it doesn't have to be in all caps. That doesn't make a difference. But it is $25 off that, so it is a real bargain. We would love for you to join Indy and I at that next expedition. And the times with that, our Zoom sessions are kind of set in the morning and the afternoon, but your time is much more flexible during the day, and you have access to those modules for 2 weeks. So that if you want to go back and watch them, or you didn't have enough time one day to watch them because something came up, no problem. You have time over the 2 weeks to really look at them. If you don't have time for that, we also have what is called our voyage. And that is more asynchronous, and it's self-paced. It's the same video modules, except you don't have the Zoom sessions. You won't have the networking availability that we have in the expedition. But it's the same modules, and it's only $25. It is a total steal. This is great too if you want to make sure information that you are going to have and that other members of your staff or your PBIS leadership are going to get is consistent. That's a really great, affordable way to be able to do that as well. And India just put a link over there into our Blitz training. These are all of our free sessions that we have coming up between now and May. And these trainings are free. They're our longest one like today is an hour and a half. But we would love for you to attend those. We have lots of different topics coming up. Your teachers are welcome to attend. The more the merrier. If you can't attend the topic that day at that time, no problem. Go ahead and sign up, because we can always send you the email that has the link and the recording that goes with it. So next, we want to give you this personal invitation to please keep it going with us in our Facebook user group. And this is called the PBIS Rewards Break Room. And this is really where we get lots of feedback from our users. We like to go there and ask them, what do you think about this idea? We're going to try to work on this for everybody. Or what are some things that you want us to work on for you? Or this is coming up, we're going to give you a special preview to it. Or you can ask us questions. So you can feel free to scan that QR code with your cell phone, and it takes you right to that page. There are a couple of questions that you have to answer to join the breakout room, but they're really simple. And we would love for you to join us there on Facebook. It's really nice and easy. You can yourself, or if you want to join for your school, that's fine too. It's a really great place to kind of keep the party going over there on Facebook. Yes, Tamika, the link will be sent to you today, even when you're in attendance. Absolutely. You got to get payoff for all staying through this whole thing for sure. All right, Andy, you want to talk about our next step planning?
Absolutely. So we know that once you give them the training, you always want to keep them thinking, well, what's next? Well, we have a form that we have created for you to be able to use with your staff called the Next Step Planning Form. You can utilize this to work together as a small admin team, work together as a PBIS leadership team to really figure out what's the next steps as far as the training you want to provide for them. What are going to be your PBIS initiatives? So this form is just kind of a catch-all for you all to plan what's going to be next as far as our needs for our staff. So please make sure we're probably going to put that that link to that is actually in the presentation. But we can also put it in the chat box if that is helpful for you. But this is just a great catch-all form for you all to be planning what's going to be our next piece of the puzzle when it comes to PBIS and PBIS Rewards training. And then here it is, drum roll please. This is the resource link that has honestly every single thing that you would need to be able to do this training for your staff. It's going to have the PowerPoint template. It has actually a recording on there. The recording may not be on this particular resource page, may not be today's recording underneath the one for Train the Trainer, but it will be a recording to a Train the Trainer session. It's got handouts, it's got that next step planning form. Any resource that you could need, boom, is right there in this link. So even though if you did register, this link will be emailed to you. You also may want to go ahead and click on that link right now in the chat box so that you already have it pulled up on your device, ready to go for when you need it. Okay, so like we said, drum roll please, that's what you've been waiting for. So make sure you do click on that link. You can also scan it. Anna's so great at it. She always gives you, no excuses, India, is what she tells me. So if you don't want to click on the link, you can also scan it with the QR code that we have right here on the slide.
So this is our last slide. We finished a little early, which is great because that will give us a chance to go into the system and show you guys some things. But we do want to say thank you, and we would love for you to take our survey to give us a little bit of feedback. It is really short. It usually has about 7 questions. And so with that, that really helps us know how we can make this training better and any needs that you may have. So please take some time and fill that out for us. And then we are going to kind of turn it over to you to be able to tell us what you would like to see in the system. And we will gladly jump in and click around and show you whatever helps you understand it better. Feel free to unmute, or you can type it over there in the chat box. That would be great for all of us.
Absolutely. So if you're curious to see a raffle, Anna is amazing. She can show you how to set up a raffle. We can even run one for you. If you're curious to see more about the sale features, because actually, we're going to let you guys in on a little secret. We just rolled out a feature to where students will now also be able to do their own self-checks if your school turns that on in your settings. So students themselves can be in control of showing their teachers how they're feeling, okay? So that's the student self-sale check. That feature has just been rolled out as of last Friday. So we can show you some behind the scenes things. If you'd like to see what does the student web portal look like, we can show you that. If you'd like to see the groups page, or if you have just any general questions about PBIS or PBIS Rewards, feel free to ask them, just unmute, or you can put it in the chat box. We'd love to address anything you want to discuss.
I have a question. So when I set up, I'm an admin. When I set up my group my teachers and my point values, I set it up to like do out of 10, I think. Like it didn't give, not to give the specifics because we do use Dojo. And I thought that there would be an easy way for them to transfer those points over. Next year, certainly going straight with PBIS now that I know more about it, but we're so deep into it. So it's just like no need to switch it up. It's already going to be enough them using both systems. But do you think that that's the best way, one of your tricks or trades that you've learned, do you think that's the best way to do it, assigning that point value?
Well, we will say, like, first of all, Tish, you and your staff are on it to be thinking about what's going to be the less traumatic and complicated for your staff. And if you are kind of transitioning from a system that wasn't, based by the expectations or anything, and you want to set it up to where you don't have the points associated with your expectations for your school, that is just fine if that's what works best for your school. We will say the great thing about going in and setting up the system with your expectations that may be associated with the matrix that you all have is that reports will be generated for you through the system based upon those expectations. So you can go in and generate a report that says, wow, our students are rocking it with respect, but they really are lacking in responsibility because we have hundreds of points being given when it comes to respect, but maybe we've got 6 that have been given in responsibility. So then you can go back and say, we really need to, maybe do a curriculum blitz, have everybody in morning meetings or something, discuss responsibility, have some responsibility challenges or some events and things of that sort to really, try to get responsibility to be more across the board, being just demonstrated by the students, and then you'll be able to give them points for that. And then once again, you have those reports showing the evidence that they really are just demonstrating great responsibility. So it's really good to really just help you as far as the reports that can be generated so you can really pinpoint the needs as far as what needs to be taught and retaught to the students concerning your expectations. But if the way you have it set up right now is just with the points without expectations is working for your school, please do that. My grandma always said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if it's working for your school, do whatever works best for your school. And then, like you said, then maybe next year you decide to have it set up with expectations. Anna, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think I love your explanation of that too. Sometimes I think it is hard if you have a 1 through 10 point scale because a teacher has to decide on how many points each time they give it. Most of our schools that have the highest fidelity of use with PBIS rewards just use that 1 point per expectation because it's really easy just to give that point and then move on to the next thing. So, but there's lots of factors that go into that too, India talked about. So I think there are lots of things to kind of weigh out with that decision as well.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks.
Sure,
No,
thank you.
thank you, Tish. Thanks for sharing. That was an excellent question. And does anyone else have a question or a wondering or concern or want to see something in the system live?
What I think, well, maybe while we're waiting for somebody to either send us something in the chat or in just unmuting, I think I'm just going to go into groups just because that is where we have so much functionality. And so
Absolutely.
we talked about the groups that are assigned to you. You can see these groups up here have been assigned to me, my math class and my expedition. And then I created groups, the comic book club and a poetry club, by just clicking on this green plus sign right here. That allows you to create a group. If I was going to help another teacher with a group, I can just come down right here to this arrow that says all user groups, and that will show all the groups for the entire school. So if one of those, let's say, is India's class and that's this health class, all I have to do is click on that orange star and that will favorite that group and it will bring it up here to the top. So as soon as I click on groups, it'll be visible to me. And again, this will be another one that will be on my app on my phone. So that's how to favorite those groups that are also here. So another way to kind of view those. Indy, was there something else that came up in? Oh, sure, how to create a group. I see that in the chat.
Yes.
Sure, so I'm just gonna click on that green plus sign that was right there, and then I can enter my name for it. So if I'm going to do maybe a yearbook club, and I can select a subject if I'd like, or I'm just gonna go to other, and I'm just gonna click save. So once I do that, then it's going to bring me to this kind of like a blank groups page. So I can just click right here to add students. And for my yearbook club, I can just start typing in those students' names. And it'll start trying to populate those students as I type it in, and I can select the student. And it'll be, that student will be added to the group. So nice and easy as far as that goes. And then all I have to do is click this save button right here. And then this is a group that's going to be active now, and it'll be listed at the top because it's a group I created. So really nice and easy.
And Anna, we did have another thing, and I don't know if you mind, Kimberly. I don't want to put you on the spot or make you feel uncomfortable, but I would love for you, if you feel comfortable, unmuting and tell us a little bit more about some of the needs that you have at your school regarding points.
Some of the which we have at school, sorry.
Just what you put in your chat, just about a need for giving more
Okay.
points.
So we are using PBIS Rewards consistently for the first time this year. And we decided to simplify things for the children. Or for the teachers, each thing would be worth 1 point. We have safe, respectful, responsible, and learner. So one of the special ed teachers is using their behavior tracker and wants to give points based on the number of greens the student earns on daily behavior. So they get 1 point per green. The logistics of clicking on learner, she sees that as being a learner, a good learner. So the difficulty with clicking learner 15 times for the 15 times a day the kid is in there, I'm hoping to find a better way to include those points or to put in those points rather than having to enter them one at a time.
So here's what maybe we can show Anna. Now, this is only for those with admin privileges, but if you click on student, if you go to, well, we probably need to make sure it's turned on first, but you can go to settings and you can turn it on to where people with admin privileges can adjust student balances, okay, by just a click. So Anna's going to go to settings.
My internet's thinking, just a second. Sorry.
When her computer feels like going there, you would go to settings, you would go to options, and you would click on the option of being able to, okay, loading up there. She would go to settings, she's going to click on options, and then there is an option to click on adjust the points override. Okay.
So yeah, right here.
So adjust the points override. So it is turned on. It says show adjust points option to admin. Okay. So then you would go, if you didn't want your admin to be able to adjust the points, you just turn that off. So you go back to the main menu, and then you're going to click on students, and you're going to find the name of the student you need to adjust the balance for. So Anna's just going to, type in a random student there.
This is such a great time for my computer to have this.
Of course it is. You know how it goes. And like we said, this is an admin option to do. Now, of course, if she doesn't have those admin privileges, or and you guys can give that to her. That's up to your school. You can give her those privileges if you want. And so she can do this herself. I mean, she can do it the old school way of clickety click, click, click 15 times, or she can just use this this adjust button. So see right down there, like next to Blake, there's that button that says adjust right before the very end. You can click on adjust. And then she can just type in what the balance needs to be. So if that student earned 15, she can just change it to 19 and hit save. And then if your school is set up by expectations, she can choose what she wants the expectations, to be associated with the points. And it's a lot easier to do it that way. So you all may want to discuss giving her admin privileges so she's able to do that.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. That was a great question. We have never had that question. I mean, to be able to show that in the system. So that was great. Thank you for sharing, Kimberly. We have a few more minutes. So is there anyone else that has a question, something you want to see, just something you want to share, maybe even a PBIS or PBIS Rewards success that you just like to brag on your school or your students about? Oh, we've got one. No, that's just from before. So any new thing you'd like to see or any questions or anything you want to share? Yep. See, Kimberly, we all think that was a great question. We agree. Oh, thank you so much. Yes. So, in fact, Anna, I think that, they've been great students. Can we let them out of class a little early?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, you all have been fantastic. And we're also going to put in the chat our personal email. So if you have a question after today's session, you want to know how to do something, you can't remember something we said, you just have something you want to share with us, please contact us at training@pbisrewards.com. Anna sees it, I see it. You may know another one of our training friends, Kara, maybe you know Andy. All four of us get that email. So we will definitely get your answer back to you immediately. That's Noelle, let me tell you, when I taught in the classroom and had PBIS rewards, all I'd have to start doing is on the app and they'd hear that ding, ding. They'd be like, whoa, points, and straighten up, boy, like Army soldiers, I tell you. So I agree. PBIS rewards definitely can be a great resource and not make life harder, but make life easier for you as far as positive behavior is concerned. So thanks so much for sharing, you guys. Have a fantastic day. And don't forget,